Greetings. My name is Dr. Joe O'Donnell, and it is a pleasure to welcome each of you to our course on consumer behavior. Over the next 16 weeks, we're going to be investigating the nuances surrounding the production, marketing, and purchasing of goods and services. The focus of our study will be based on the psychology that is foundational to understanding the reasons why we as consumers become interested in a particular product, and also how marketing uses psychological devices to entice a consumer to desire and purchase a product. So let's begin by defining what is consumer behavior. Consumer behavior has its origin in psychology. The term psychology has its etymology in the Greek language. The Greek term psyche means mind. The suffix ology is related to the Greek word logos, which can be translated as word or word about. I'm sure many of you have read John 1:1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word was with God. Well, in the Greek, logos meant word, something about, but however, we have expanded upon that to mean something such as the study of, or the science of, or the knowledge about. And also our word logic has its origins in logos. You can see the connection, logos, law, and logic. So whenever you see the suffix of ology, think of a study or knowledge about. And let's look at some examples of how that applies to our current language. In the social sciences, we have terms such as sociology, which means the study or knowledge of social systems. Anthropology, the study or knowledge about humans. Now, anthropos means mankind. That's, I know, somewhat politically incorrect. I can't even say the word. It bothers me so much. Politically incorrect, or PC. That it's the study of humans, and which should be right. In the ministerial profession, we have the word theology, theos, God. So it's a study or knowledge about God. Eschatology, eschatos, means end things. It's the study about end times or final things. Ecclesiology, ecclesia, the church, the study or understanding about a church gathering. Let's look at the medical profession. It even bleeds over into there. Although I will say that the medical profession uses a lot of its terminology based on the Latin rather than the Greek, but there are examples of it, such as cardiology, the study and knowledge about the heart, and nephrology, the study or knowledge about the kidneys. Nephros means kidneys in Greek, and cardia is the heart in Greek. So let's go on and take a look at a better definition of consumer behavior. Okay, consumer behavior is the study of human interactions based on emotional, cognitive, and behavioral responses to internal and external stimuli, resulting from exposure to the various marketing campaigns designed to evoke psychophysiological reaction from a consumer. From the perspective of consumerism, behavior is contingent upon the purchase, use, and disposal of marketed products. I have here, this definition does not adequately define the complex interaction of thoughts, feelings, and actions that comprise the intricacies of consumer behavior. Each of us is an individual. The definition there is a nice umbrella definition. However, human behavior, especially in consumerism, is so specialized and unique to each one of us that it's really necessary to break that down and unpack that definition into some other components. So let's take a look at that by going into consumer culture and what it exactly means. Okay, consumer culture, it defines the relationship between consumers and the products they buy regarding the material subculture and the relationship that creates. It's a culture where social status and values and activities are centered around the purchase and consumption of goods and services. And you'll notice that in that sentence, that our social status, a lot of times it depends on what we buy, what we own, how others perceive us. We base our internal feelings of success on keeping up with the Joneses. Whether that's a good or bad thing, I guess that's an individual decision. But that there's just that significant component about consumer culture where an individual defines him or herself around what they have in order to maintain that certain social status, or to achieve that higher economic status. Even if it makes them house poor, somebody will still want to purchase that house because it'll seem to elevate them within the culture that they move. Their friends and family would, oh wow, look at what you purchased. Look what you were able to buy. Yes, this is my social status now. I can't afford to do anything else. I can hardly put food on the table, but I was able to make this purchase because I've been told that through advertising and marketing, by having this type of house and this type of car sitting in my driveway, this puts me at a social status that was beyond what I was at before. Okay, well, whether that is a good or bad thing, again, that's an individual choice, but some of the factors that are influencing that thinking are TV ads, radio ads, road signs, magazine articles, internet ads. It seems to me that the use of internet ads is becoming oppressive. It is, no matter where you go, on what website, it seems to me that advertisements are consistently popping up. Any YouTube video, as soon as I click on it, I'm taken to an ad. Halfway through, I'm seeing an ad, and I just can't wait to click out of that 10-second point where I can get rid of it. So there are some theories about consumer culture that I do want to address. So let's take a look at that. There's two, actually. So let's take a look at them and let's move on. Theories of consumer culture. The first one is consumer sovereignty. Now, consumer sovereignty, this is an empowering condition where the consumer feels that they are the ultimate determinant of his or her wants, needs, or desires. In other words, the consumer is the driving force beyond the production of goods and services. We as consumers dictate whether a product is worthy of us or basically useless, regardless of advertising. So this is an empowerment that we have within us that it feeds into our well-being. And subsequently, I can't speak today. Subsequently, boy, I blew that word. How's that? It benefits society due to the prominence of the internal locus of control rather than an external locus of control. Now, I've got to go into internal and external locus of control because if you haven't had a psychology course before, this is one of the prime aspects to our human behavior or human personality. So let's move on and take a look at internal and external locus of control. The internal locus of control. This is basically how an individual regards their attribution of success or failure, and it is based on their own thoughts, feelings, and actions. It's an internal feeling. How do you quantify your success? You have your own internal measure of what product, what service, you feel is helpful in your ability to gauge whether you are a success or a failure. You control your own destiny through personal responsibility, motivation, and incentive. Now, the external locus of control is the opposite. The person will gauge their feelings of success or failure based upon luck, fate, chance. Essentially, you feel you're at the mercy of outside forces, external forces or circumstances that are beyond your control. Now let's consider, since we've got locus of control down, let's consider the second theory of consumer culture. And this is going to be consumer oppression. Consumer oppression. This is a condition where consumers are alienated through materialism and shallowness. They're generally passive and easily manipulated. Traditional values are put off to the side, and societal culture is forced to make purchases of goods and services based on peer pressure and media hype. Some examples. Disney. Now, the media enticement about going to Disney has been very prevalent over the decades. The only true Florida or California vacation is one that includes a visit to Disney. Don't worry about the high cost. Your kids will have memories that will last a lifetime. A great advertisement, but the consumer is now forced to make a decision based on, can they afford to actually go to Disney, or will going to Disney just to provide memories for their children really force them into a serious financial difficulty? Again, Disney doesn't care. They want your money. They want you there. And they're going to use the oppression of media hype and peer pressure to get you to step forward and, hello, Disney, here I am. If you go to any mall in Florida where I live, basically you're going to find a Disney store. And you have, with these stores, you have the additional opportunity to make your purchase of items from Disney that you may not have been able to get when you visited Disney, or if you couldn't visit Disney, you're still able to go into the Disney store and purchase, your Mickey Mouse ears, your Donald Duck t-shirt, whatever you want to get, so that your kids can be wearing this, or you can have mementos, I should say, on your walls and your shelves in your home, to show the people that, yes, I made it to Disney, even though if you really didn't, you made it to the Disney store. You bought into the peer pressure and the oppressive advertising that Disney has to entice you to make that purchase of their goods. Apple Corporation and Mac computer contingency. Again, Apple's a huge corporation that has developed its own corporate culture and subculture of loyal followers. And as technology progresses, the amount of different add-ons that you can purchase, even if it's just specifically for Apple, which is a lot of their technology is geared simply for their platform. It's not going to transfer over to a PC environment. So if you're involved with Apple, Apple wants to keep you. They want you oppressed so that you can stay with them. How do they do it? With new technology, the media hype, all through peer pressure on their advertisements. You get this new Mac, and it can do all sorts of things that a PC can't. Likewise, PC consumerism. Several years ago, I was inundated with commercials with this man on TV, comes on, and Dell computers. And the thing I can remember about it is, dude, you're getting a Dell. And wow, okay, you play this over and over again in your mind, and you see this and you think, wow, I'm getting a Dell if I purchase this. I played into the peer pressure. I was manipulated into getting that Dell computer. Well, I guess we're all guilty of wanting something and listening to the advertisements, and it piques our interest. However, going back to internal locus of control, we've also got to recognize that individuals with an internal locus of control have the ability to weigh out the pros and cons of making a purchase, whether it will making this purchase actually make me feel better about myself. Will it raise my social status? Will it give me a deeper sense of success? Or is it just something that is, well, it's there. Do I need it? No, so pass, forget about it. An external locus of control, an individual may say, see the first commercial that comes on and, well, I'm going to buy it because it's going to make me feel better about myself. They say it's going to make me feel better. They say it's going to give me higher status. It's very individualized. So now let's take a look at some of the research in consumer behavior. And we're going to start out with the quantitative research design. Okay, quantitative research design. Quantitative research is a number crunching sort of situation. In other words, a researcher will collect the data, and that data will be subjected to a mathematical analysis to determine whether any relationship exists between the variables in question. Several types of quantitative designs are out there. However, I believe that the most common would be survey research, such as Likert scales. A Likert scale it's a design that is meant to measure the strength of feelings about a particular topic. For instance, you may go to a mall or perhaps on campus, you'll meet somebody that is doing some research, and they will ask you a question about how you feel about a certain topic, and you'll have several choices. They will ask you, do you agree with something? Are you very agreeable to it? Are you uncertain? Or are you very disagreeable about a particular topic? What you say will be coded against numbers 1 through 5 or 1 through 7. For example, 1, if you say very agreeable, the researcher will mark down a check mark next to number 1. Number 2 may equal agreeable. Number 3 is uncertain. If you're uncertain about something, the researcher may put a check mark next to number 3. If you are disagreeable about something, number 4. If you were very disagreeable about a particular topic, the researcher will put a check mark next to number 5. That way they can numerically gauge how you feel. So once all this data is collected, again, it's put into a statistical evaluation. In the human services, SPSS is a major mechanism for engaging in this sort of design, especially the Pearson product moments correlation, Spearman's rank order coefficient, and regression analysis are all very valuable to determine what kind of relationship exists between the variables in question. Now, experimental research, again, it's assigning participants to a certain treatment groups to determine if a specific treatment influences the outcome of the research. Now let's move on to qualitative research. Qualitative research design is based on social phenomenon in its natural surroundings. The design really rests upon the direct experiences of humans, and the data is collected through interviews and observations, whether the observations can be through text, audio, or video. And once the data has been collected, the non-numerical information is coded and examined for identifying specific concepts, opinions, or experiences. Now, some examples of qualitative research that you can find is narrative research, interviews, um, phenomenological research, which means that the research interviews participants regarding a lived experience, uh, and the researcher is seeking to draw out some type of a general theory about a process or an interaction that is grounded in the views of the participants. So the interviewer is seeking out personal experience and the view of how that personal experience has affected the individual. Next, we have exploratory research. Now, exploratory research, again, it's used to probe and to identify possible variables. It's used when the researcher does not exactly know if the topic is worthy of investigation, if there is anything to really grasp onto that needs to be investigated, one variable against another. Now, there are several characteristics for exploratory research that I would like you to note. First is it's used when a concept is immature due to a conspicuous lack of theory and previous research. A lot of doctoral dissertations have their origins in that very statement. A doctoral dissertation is meant to investigate a particular aspect of a field of interest, and the way the doctoral researcher comes up and actually develops her subject is they look at previous research and whether there's a lack of it or whether something is inadequate in the current research. They're looking for holes in what is out there so they can try to fill in on the necessary information. That's exploratory research. Again, it's used when a notion regarding an available theory is inaccurate, inappropriate, or incorrect, or biased. Bias in research is no. You cannot be biased in any type of research paper. Doing so will automatically set your research apart from being looked at as official, as academically rigorous. You're just not in a good place if you show any type of bias in your research. It can also be used when a need exists to explore or describe a theory. A theory may be out there, there may be additional research, but you want to expand on that theory. And finally, exploratory research is useful when the phenomenon is not suited to quantitative measures. Not everything can be reduced to numbers. Research has got to make itself available to all situations. So exploratory research is really good if the research that is being considered may end up to be a qualitative research design. It's important. So let's go over causal research now. Causal research is concerned with identifying cause and effect relationships. Correlational studies are a primary means to identify relationships between variables. However, I've got to add a caveat here. Correlation does not equate to causality. This is a commercially made error. Correlation only indicates the strength of a possible relationship between variables. Causality can never, ever be inferred through a correlation. There may be a third or fourth variable that is exerting an influence on the study variables. And this third variable may not have been accounted for by the researcher or recognized by the researcher. And this will lead to a false or misinformed outcome of the study if the researcher should assume that the correlation between two variables indicates a causality. And that is an error that you do not want to make in research, because it will completely kick your research to the curb and it will call your ability as a researcher into question. Now, regarding correlation research, I did mention several of the stat procedures that can be used to determine a correlation in the previous slide. Now, when a correlation is determined, there are three possible outcomes. The first is a positive correlation, and this is when two variables either increase or decrease at the same rate. One goes up, if the one on the x value goes up, the y value also goes up also. Likewise, if the y value decreases and the x value decreases, that is a positive relationship. A negative correlation is when one variable increases, perhaps on the x-axis, and the y value decreases. They're opposites. It's an x on your x and y axis. Zero correlation means the two variables, the points describing the variables, are all over the place on the graph. You can't determine any type of relationship. There is also something called stat significance. A correlation may indicate that there's a positive aspect to the two variables. However, whether that relationship is significant is a question that you have also got to ask yourself. Simply because two variables may be positively correlated does not mean that that correlation is significant. Now, I don't want to go too deep into the stats involved with them, because we're not involved with a stat course, but I just want you to be aware of when you're dealing with correlational studies, there's a lot more to it than simply saying that if two variables look like they're moving in the same direction, that is causality, and it is a significant causality. It is not. So just be aware of that, and I don't want to belabor the point, but it's important as you move on in your education, and especially as you move into your field, whatever you're going to do for your life's work. If you go into marketing, you are going to be having correlations, and understanding graphs and what the numbers mean will be vitally important to your success as a marketer and in advertising. Okay, that about does it for our first week lesson. I hope that this has proven helpful to you, and I look forward to meeting you in our second lesson for next week. Until then, take care. Blessings. Bye-bye.